Okay, welcome everyone to the City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight is a public hearing. It's September 8th, 2008, and there are two continuances on the agenda tonight, as well as two new matters, two new petitions. The first continuance is ZB 2008, number 24, a special permit and variance request for signs, Splash Media Group, Boston LLC at 41 Mile Ave. This is located in a regional retail district. The petitioner is asking a special permit to allow a billboard according to section 6.3.4 of the zoning ordinance and variances for sign type and dimensions according to 6.3.2, 6.3.4, 6.3.6 of the zoning ordinance. Would a representative of the petitioner please address the board? Before you do, Attorney Elides, I recall that this was continued, not the last meeting, but the meeting before that, and is it my recollection, well, it is my recollection that the public hearing at that point was closed, but...
Correct. That's correct.
I do see new faces. If you have no opposition or no problem with it, I'd prefer to ask if there's anybody has anything new to say, just out of fairness to the petition in general.
Not a problem, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
but you can go ahead and I can do that when the public hearing time
Great.
is.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Appeals, my name is George C. Elides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell, and I'm here in this matter, which is a continuation from our public hearing July 28th. Basically, my understanding of how things were left on July 28th was that the board raised two, maybe three questions. I'm going to address three, hopefully, because there were some issues possibly that might have been left untouched. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can, but please let's understand that some of the topics involved take a little more time than you might expect. But basically, I'd like to touch on first two matters. The issue of the Conservation Commission, which I think was brought up by a couple of the members. Let me begin that discussion and also point to the other discussion. I submitted to the board a report, a written report in the package that I gave you before the meeting that speaks to the three issues I'm going to talk about right now. Number one is the Conservation Commission. Number two is the letter from the Planning and Development. And number three is the issue of whether or not this really qualifies as a variance. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can, Mr. Chairman.
Take your time.
First of all, with regard to the project as it relates to the wetlands, I have submitted as part of your package, and you'll see it, I think it's the last item before the color tab, is the letter from the Conservation Commission indicating that we went there twice. And as I get into more details in my report to you, and I'm not going to go over the whole thing word by word, but it's in there, but we went there twice. The first meeting was the principal issue the threshold issue they needed to decide was whether or not this was the addition of the pylon and the sign was a sufficient change to require us to start the wetlands and the Conservation Commission filing all over again. Was it significant enough? And number two, after they answered that threshold question, if they deemed it not to be enough to require a new filing, was there enough of a change or enough of an issue that would require a continued or additional hearing? The answer that the board, and you have the decision right there, was that by unanimous vote, they voted that it was not a significant change that required a new filing. And number two, they voted to approve the petition, our project as we have it submitted. Now, in the process, what we did was we prepared for them a whole bunch of answers to information, which I've outlined in the report to the board, concerning what the content of the soil was, whether or not there was going to be additions of concrete into the area, whether or not there would be guy wires or whatever, whether or not, I mean, there were 6 different questions, all of which I've outlined in there, and all of which we answered to their satisfaction. So that's item number 1 that I was asked to go into a little more for the board. Item number 2 related to the memo from Diane Trad, dated, I think it was July 28th, if I'm not mistaken, but the date is not that relevant. What's relevant is that if you recall, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I set aside, because we asked for a continuance because last minute that was given to us. I'm going to talk about it in a minute now, but I just got memo number 2 right now from the Department of Planning and Development. Talk about not playing fair. But I'll talk about that later, because I want to report to the board, as I said, what we did at your direction. We went to the Department of Planning and Development, and we had a meeting with the folks there. I'm going to just get, so you know, at the meeting was my client, Mary Burns, Peter Doyle, my clients, Peter, myself, our project manager, Mr. Hammer, who's around here somewhere, right there. And on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development, Ann Barton, George Prowakis, Christine Thomas of the Conservation Commission, the city traffic engineer, and Diane Trad. We all sat at the table there, and at that meeting, we discussed with them what the status of our project was and what we hoped to do. We pointed out to them that the sign that we agreed, based on a balloon test, which they had asked to be performed, and we had performed, to reduce the sign to 87 feet from 127 feet. That's almost a 35% reduction in the height of the sign. We told them about the many benefits to be derived by the motoring public, including the Amber Alert, the Silver Alert, and other information regarding the city of Lowell and its activities. We gave them the pictures of the balloon testing so that they could look them over themselves, and showed that the billboard would not be visible to 90% of any neighboring people there, certainly during the summertime and fall when there were still leaves on the tree. After that, when it was wintertime and no leaves on the abutting trees, some of those neighbors, and not very many of them, might be able to see the sign itself. But that's why we're installing the billboard with the faces facing the highway like that, as opposed to the neighborhoods over here. So they will never see the sign, they will never see the light. We pointed out to them that there was no impact on the schools, no roads to build, no city services required, no cost whatsoever to the city, and in fact, increased revenue because of the city taking land that otherwise might not be usable by the owner, and not getting tax revenue for it, and in addition to that, tax revenue from the billboard itself. We talked about all the other many benefits that would be derived by the city and the people in the city, the businesses in the city, the jobs that might be created by bringing in the new businesses and the new shoppers and visitors and tourists to Lowell. We went through all of that. And then I can say to you what I put out as basically the result. We had what I would refer to as a lengthy and spirited discussion, terminating in the applicant requesting, that's us, that for them to furnish any suggestions they might have to assuage its objections. They basically said the essence of their position is they did not want billboards at all, period. Now, I just got blindsided tonight, Mr. Chairman, once again, because it came to my attention briefly, less than a half hour before this meeting, that Diane Trad has issued a new memo, which apparently has been given to this board, and which, thanks to Kim, I have seen for the first time 5 minutes ago, and my clients have been looking at it to try and see. And you know what really upsets me, aside from that, members of the board? there were items in there that really were never discussed or asked, and I said to them, if you want us to do things, if you want to ask for things, let me know. We'll take them into consideration. I haven't had a chance to study this, and I'm sure you folks probably haven't even had a chance, but I'm going to tell you this. Here's what really upsets me. On the one hand, everything that we got by way of information was that they didn't want billboards under any circumstances. So then what does this thing start talking about? This thing starts talking about that they want more money from the applicant because what we're offering by way of free signage usage to the city is not enough. Now, which is it? Is it they're diametrically opposed to billboards or that they want more money? And needless to say, I'm not very happy about that, and none of us should be very happy about that. I can't comment on a lot of this other stuff. Maybe after I have an opportunity to look things over in greater detail when other people are talking, I can say a few more things about that. So, all of that took place despite our attempts to show them that passers-by on Route 3 have absolutely no clue. Think about this. You all live here, you all travel on this, you all know it. Absolutely no clue if you are coming south or going north on Route 3 what may be available to the passers-by in Lowell by way of service establishments, serving food, repair for automobiles, things like that. Good downtown and neighborhood retail businesses, which will be even more important as the new Lowe's and Target stores that we're trying to build and bring into the city are brought into the city. They won't even know they're there as they drive by. What things are happening at UMass, at Lowell High School, at all of the local institutions in the city, all things that all the multitudinous, I said, benefits that the city gives. The auditorium, the Songus Arena, all of these things, they just totally ignore. The Winterfest, one of the largest and best folk festivals in America, none of those things as you drive by on Route 3 are known to any motorist going by. Not a clue, folks, not a clue. Over 100,000 vehicles a day pass on that road. I heard 110, but the city traffic engineer said 100,000. I'll defer to his number, whichever one you want. But out of that 100,000, none of them see any of the things that I just talked about. One of the principal differences between us and competing cities like Worcester, 290, Interstate 290 runs right through the city. Right through the city. So you can see the things that are there. But even on top of that, look at the number of billboards they have that advertise the things that are important to people passing by that they can see and use in the city of Worcester, a city that's a vibrant city that wants people's business. I think that's what we are or want to be. We're not suburbia, and we don't want to be hidden away. We don't want the things that we have in the city to be hidden gems. What we want is to create some more business so that we can get better jobs for Lowellians, put more money in the city coffers, require fewer tax dollars from city homeowners and renters. And let me emphasize that the new master plan, and I'm going to tell you, not by way of braggadocio, but just by way of what I put into it, I think I know the master plan as well as anybody in the city, except perhaps people like George Proakis and some of the people at DPD who drew and made that plan. And I have the highest respect for those people. I've said that in this board and a number of other boards, every place I go. They're great, but they've put, in this case, their personal prejudices. I know they don't like black billboards, but they put their personal prejudices ahead of what's best for the city in this case. We have a critical need for one at this city and at this junction, and the master plan says that the city should be using any and all aggressive marketing techniques to promote the wonderful assets and benefits that are available in this city that we've all worked so hard to produce and encourage. Folks, we're in the instant information era. When it's an LED sign someday, hopefully, Mary will be absolutely, I told you this before, I want to say it again, she'll be able to change the content of that sign anywhere in the world, as long as she has internet access, anywhere in the world instantaneously. That's how important information is, and that's how information gets transcribed in this day and age. And that's from Mary's side. And you know what? Peter will also be able to have customers know where Alpine and Lowell Provision is as they drive by. Now they don't know that. Now they don't know that. This is a family business in Lowell. In fact, excuse me, it's been an integral part of business in this city for years. Mary, Peter, two small business people, Lowellians, trying to do something both for themselves as business people and for the city of Lowell. So, I think we've done, I got to talk about the variance business. Bear with me 1 second while I just get to that. I know that I gave you a lengthy discussion on it in my report to the board, and I don't want to get too lengthy, but I know these are topics that have to be discussed in the event there's a problem later on. The applicant's requesting a variance from the ordinance for permission. We're requesting a variance. This is very critical, and I'm going to repeat it again in a minute. There are two things we're looking for here. One is a variance from the ordinance that says that billboards can only be placed in light industry, general industry areas. However, with a variance, they can be put in this regional retail area. The applicant submitted material related to the information submitted in both its application and previous presentations about the variance request, and also in the separate report I've given to you, but I want to just highlight some of the things. The irregularity of the topography and the soil conditions that are there. We're in a wetlands area with a very change of shape property that's there. And that does not affect the rest of the entire zone. I know what a variance is required. That such condition does not affect the rest of the regional retail zone the land is a part of, though it can affect some of them. And that's the case here. The applicant further has provided testimony relative to the substantial hardship involved because the land is not otherwise usable due to its soil and topographical conditions, adjoining wetlands, and the highway itself, and the fact that it's on a paper street. We can't use, Peter, the owner, and Louise, his wife, who are sitting next to him, cannot use the land for any other purpose. They can be taxed for it, but they can't use it for any other purpose. So, that certainly talks about the substantial financial hardship that goes along with that. The applicant further presented evidence to show the project would not be detrimental to the public good, nor would it derogate from the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance, in that the project has no detrimental effect on any property, key words now, folks, within the same zoning district. We had some people here, I don't know if they're here again, I see a couple of them now, who were here because they're in a residential zone next door. You know what? When you're talking about variances, the issue, the threshold issue, is whether or not it has a detrimental effect on the property within the same zoning district, our regional district, regional retail district, not the retail next door, not the industrial high-rise across the way, only on this particular district. And furthermore, I've appended to your, it's in my more in-depth study that's with your report tonight, and I've appended to that report cases that indicate that it isn't relevant that neighborhoods next door, in fact, there's a 200-foot radio tower in one case, and it isn't relevant that the places next door can maybe even see it, Lastly, the last requirement, which I'm talking about, is no detrimental effect, and also will have a positive effect, or will not have a detrimental effect, on the entire rest of the city. And certainly, we've pointed out with the things I've spoken with tonight and previously talked about, that all of this is going to be an assist to the city. It's going to be a positive, not a detriment, by the business, through the marketing, providing jobs, revenues, and many other assets the city has. I could go on that topic, but I will not, because again, we have a timing problem. So let me go back and try to wrap up for you, and then I'll be able to answer a whole bunch of other questions you may have.
George, while you're looking through that, if we could just read into the record, I can have the clerk read into the record the correspondence we did receive from various people, yourself, Diane Trad from DPD, and the applicant, as far as those documents they handed in earlier. I just want to make sure that that's part of our file.
Yeah, you know, I intended to include that, and I didn't get
Well,
it.
we could take care of that here. I'll have,
You have the previous letter, and I think I sent my letter, but I have
did.
a copy tonight,
and we have the folder, so we'll
I'd like to add that to the file with the chairman and the board's permission.
that's fine, and you can read that in, Corey.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's a good precautionary measure. We don't want anything to be overlooked here. We have a total of 5 correspondence letters at this time. An applicant's correspondence supporting billboard usage. Secondly, we have a letter from the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group signed by Patricia Hunt, which will go into the record as well. Third, a site layout plan signed by the applicant. Fourth, we have Attorney Eliades' report and rationale for billboard usage. Fifth and last, a letter from Diane Trad from Planning and Development. That's all I have at this time, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
and just to add to that, we do have all the previous correspondence before the last meeting, which will all be part of the file. So before we go any further, does any board member not have a copy or had not had an opportunity to review anything that we've just mentioned? So everybody's all set? Okay.
So I'm ready to wrap up.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just handed a petition for people who endorse this, but I'll pass this up at some point. Maybe, Matt, you could bring that up there. So,
And we'll also make this part of the record as well. So I'm being handed a document to the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals, initiated by Peter Doyle, with different members in the area, all streets in the Highlands area that all are in support of this billboard, and I count 1, 2, 3, around a dozen names, and I'll hand these to the other board members. It will become part of the record. Thank you.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So, long-winded as I often tend to be, except it's a very important matter to bring to your attention, I'm going to wrap up by saying this. Think about this. There's already talk about a billboard along Route 3 in Chelmsford, and already talk about a billboard along Route 3 in Tingsboro, despite the fact the DPD says that there are no other billboards on Route 3, and there are not, that I know of now. But both pretty much appear, the Chelmsford and the Tingsboro billboards pretty much appear to be sure things. So there may not be billboards along the newly expanded Route 3, but you can be sure it won't be long before others permit them. And I know, in my heart of hearts, that history tells me there'll be more billboards in the Lowell portion of Route 3 someday. But as a lifelong Lowellian resident myself, businessman, and cheerleader, I hope with all my heart that the billboards that come to Lowell, that may come to Lowell, will be owned first by a Lowell businesswoman, and by a Lowell business family with almost 100 years of commitment to the city of Lowell, not some big national firm who employs no one in Lowell, takes the rent money right out of town, and says, thank you very much. That's why I'm asking for you to approve this application. I think it's fair. I think it's right. I need 2 votes. I need a vote that says you grant a variance to put it on this particular type of site, regional retail, and secondly, to authorize this billboard being erected. And by the way, the last part of that, you people alone are the only ones, because that's what the city zoning ordinance gives you, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the power to issue special permits for billboards. So you'll be able to decide on this one and every other one that may come after us. I thank you. I'm available. My clients are available. Our engineers are available. And we hope very much that you see fit to find our way.
I just have one question before you step down, George. I know, and maybe you did mention it at one of the previous meetings, but the billboards, if it's approved, it's not approved for LED at this point. That only the state can do that, correct?
That's correct.
So in between, say it were approved tonight and erected, it would, what type of sign would we be
The
looking at?
traditional sign.
The
which
paper signs?
Right.
Oh,
In this case, I think they've gone to vinyl.
okay, so
Vinyl.
how could the city benefit from that sort of signage?
Well, first of all, Mary's making, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, and I did put it in my proposed findings to you, and I should have said it. I was in another folder and I passed it over for a second. My clients have proposed at least the following conditions to any permit you might grant for your consideration. We would agree that the owner, Mary, and her company would grant 1,200 messages a year for the year, a month, a month, how about that? I'm way off there. 1,200 a month for the use of the city and any other non-city, like the university or whatever, events, as well as public service messages, all is how to be determined by the city of Lowell. Number one. Number two, we'll assure that the structure will be regularly maintained and kept in good order from a visual standpoint. That was one of the key questions that was asked of us as part of the Conservation Commission hearing. And we made it clear that there's a regular maintenance program, and that as long as that regular maintenance program is conducted, and you can make that a condition, that the sign and pylon have eventually an endless life. In other words, they will be maintained. There's nothing there that's going to be blight. There's nothing there that's going to be nasty looking, etc. As far as any apparatuses used to work on the sign and fix it, any ladders or anything, we've agreed that a condition can be that the ladder that goes up the side of the pylon, I think it starts 15 feet high. Sorry.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Mr. Bailey just pointed out, as we were reading in the publication that council presented to us, it states there that it's $1,200 per year, not $1,200 per month.
So I would ask you to fix that for me.
So this is incorrect?
That is incorrect. It's $1,200 per month.
Okay, so
Thank
the
you for-
board recognizes it's $1,200 per month, and we'll correct that. Everybody can correct that on their own, but the board will recognize it.
One other question.
Go ahead.
If we grant this special variance for the billboard, and the state then passes the LED, does the petitioner have to come back before us?
My answer is yes.
That's my understanding. Absolutely. Okay. That a ladder or anything that goes up on the side will be on the side facing the highway, so it won't interfere with the neighbors or anything like that along the way. We intend, an additional condition would be that the applicant plant landscaping, trees, et cetera, to minimize the appearance of the pylon as much as possible. And most significantly, the applicant agrees that whatever conditions you place on the special permit, which is your power, can be reviewed periodically at your schedule, at your request, so that if you're unsatisfied with any of the things that have been done, you can change that, or you could even pull the special permit. So I hope I've covered enough of that there. We're obviously, if there's any condition that you think would be important and that we should consider, I'm certain that my clients would be more than willing to consider any fair and reasonable conditions that you might additionally want to place on any such permit, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have one question, I think probably it's better directed towards the applicant, but through you. Until it's LED, how does the city benefit through any of the signage, if it's the traditional paper signage or whatever, almost poster signage? What would be the proposal for the benefit? And the reason I ask this question is because I reviewed, in the short time we had to review the letter from Diane Trad. She did send this afternoon a 4-page memorandum that I had a chance to look at quickly. And it seems as though the theme running through it is that if the city, most billboards that are allowed, there's a trade-off, there's a public benefit. In other words, you provide something to the city. In one case, it was a monthly monetary amount, I think. In another case, it was another benefit to the city or the town. So I think she used the example of removing 10 billboards that are existing, and she does bring up the point that you didn't look into that, but my guess is you don't have any control over that. It's unless you do.
For the record, my name is Mary Burns, 90 Livingston Ave, Lowell. As far as public benefit on the traditional 14 by 48 vinyl wrap billboard, I will commit in writing tonight to 4 faces, 2 in the north, 2 in the south per year, until such time as the LED board goes up, if it goes up at all. That is a substantial money revenue board to the city of Lowell.
If you know, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, so if you don't know, you don't have to answer, but what is the approximate value of that monetarily?
It's in the thousands, many thousands.
Tens of thousands, probably.
Okay, so what you're proposing, so it's clear, because I don't really understand.
It could be worth about $60,000 a year to the city in free advertising on Route 3.
So when you're saying 4 faces per year, can you go into a little more detail? Because if it is approved, I think that's something I would want as a condition, that and at least until the LED is, brought before us again, and then I think we'd have significant more conditions to put on. However, for that purpose, can you explain what you're proposing so the board is clear what they're voting on?
What I will do is I will map out, working with the city manager's office and the Cool group, when they feel that they need the billboards, and that time will be reserved specifically for the city.
For what period of time? How long would they last
Usually
for?
they go a month. Usually they go a month at a time. So a
What-
month before the Folk Festival, a month before the Winter Fest, a month before who knows what other event the city needs.
And
when
the
it
approximate
comes-
value was around 60,000?
Correct.
And I'm not going to hold you up, that's just your estimate tonight.
That's my estimate.
Okay.
And with regards to the 1,200 flips per month, you can consider that 1,200 radio commercials a month, free to the city of Lowell, excluding, and that is over and, the public safety messages, the Amber Alerts are not included in that number.
Now we're into the LED phase
That's
of
with
it.
the LED phase.
So you're proposing 1,200, well, if that's approved, you're going to have to come back here for further conditions.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So maybe just
Stick to the
to avoid any confusion, we should stick with the traditional
Okay.
proposal, what you're talking about now, because that would be a whole nother set of conditions, I would imagine, unless I have it wrong, right? So if we did with if we're talking about what we would be approving tonight for, could be forever, or it could be just for the next year.
Correct.
We're talking about the traditional vinyl wrap board.
Correct.
And what you're saying is that you would allow 4 separate months of advertising dedicated to the city of Lowell. You'd work with the city manager's office and Cool. Now, I know,
Cultural affairs.
okay,
Organization
I
of Lowell.
follow it, but I just, it's sometimes an abbreviation. All right, so,
I'm with you, Steve.
That particular organization oversees all of the special events as well, like the Folk Festival, like Winterfest, and any of it. So the fact that she'd be willing to do that is of, I think, significant interest and benefit to the city, if that indeed is the dollar amount. So they'd be talking about a month prior to each event that the city manager and/or Cool would agree to? Is that what you're alluding to?
We will work on doing we will set the graphic up for the city. We will have it printed. We will post it at no charge to the city, and it'll be up for a month.
So you create the actual advertisement
Correct.
at no charge to the city?
No charge to the city.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Burns, quick question. Approximately how long do you think before it's converted to LED?
It all depends on the state. and whether or not the zoning board approves it.
Any-
It could
any-
be, I mean, it could be January, it could be a year from January. I like to get it up sooner rather than later because it would have a better benefit to the city,
So roughly a year, approximately, is that to say?
a year or less,
Okay.
Or it may never be approved.
or may never be approved.
Right, there's really no way to tell, I don't think, but
Right.
I think we can talk about whatever proposals you suggest from it, so we make it clear. If it is ever transferred over to LED, you'd have to come back before this board,
Absolutely.
and I know that that's procedurally the case, but it would make it a condition if it's approved anyway, at least it would be a condition I would suggest, and then we could start from scratch as to what we would request for, exchange for the public benefit, community benefit
Absolutely.
issues. But for tonight, with the 4 faces per year, 1 month prior, so that would be reserved. In other words, you couldn't say, well, somebody else has it until that time?
They would be told ahead of time they can't have it. The folk festival's in July. They can't have it from date X to the folk festival. That is reserved. They will have to come down, and we can repost them after. The Winterfest, the same thing. The Winterfest, I believe, is in February. The month of January, it's dedicated to the Winterfest.
So this is in total 4 months per year, north and south?
Right.
Oh, 2 sides, okay, that's right.
Two sides.
Good point. Right, and I guess while we're talking possible conditions, if it's approved, anything that you have as the owner, if you sold it, this would follow to the subsequent owner. Where we talked about regularly maintained, I mean, that's obvious, so you'd have to do that. But we did get a letter from somebody from a neighborhood association. Their concern was children graffiti, at least one of their concerns. So I would want another condition in there, if I were to approve it, saying that upon written notice of any graffiti on the pylon itself or the base, that you get written notice, and within 7 days, that's removed.
That's
Shouldn't be
not a
that big of
problem.
a deal, because you'd want it removed anyway. The other question I have is, I don't know if it makes sense, it's practical to do, but some sort of fencing around it, whether it's screen fencing and/or arborvitaes, to, I guess, soften the industrial effect of what it may look like to a passerby. I understand, I did go by, I went in there, it is pretty sunken there anyway, so I think it just, the land clearly, in my opinion, meets the variance requirements legally. I think that's, one of the only reason I'm even talking about special conditions is because I think that it meets that particular spot does meet the variance requirements. So taking that into consideration, along with reading the letter that I had from Diane Trad, as well as everything submitted by council, I'm trying to figure out what the opposition really is here. And it's, not so much no billboards, it's if you do it, there's got to be something in exchange. And they keep mentioning buying back billboards in the city and getting rid of them. Do you have a response for that at all? Just because I'm not sure how that works in other towns.
My response is, she cited Worcester, that Worcester bought back some billboards. I know for a fact from my term as the director of the Outdoor Advertising Board, that is not the case. There are some communities that have done it. Lowell did do it in the past, but you have to be in a position to have boards to sell back. And what the Clear Channels of the world try to do is they buy what they consider their junk boards, quote unquote, and they would, in exchange, put a board up on a highway. It's really no benefit to the city other than to Clear Channel.
Okay. Now, just on the other issue with the fencing and the landscaping, is there a branch of the government in the city of Lowell that oversees something like that? In other words, if we put in a condition, I would want, you want to make sure that you're doing it right, and we want to make sure you're doing it right. Upon whose suggestion? I mean, who could look at that unless you have some suggestions as to what you do? I don't know if you do a 6-foot-high, 10-foot-high fence. I don't know, exactly what.
It's a condition that this board can make and designate that you want a 6-foot-high fence, as long as it doesn't, as long as it's not a spike fence.
Right,
or
I guess what
something
I'm
like that.
asking is, you know how you do the fencing for the dumpster screening? I would consider this something similar to that, the same objective. In other words, to minimize a big hunk of steel, which is basically what the base of a billboard is.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, because Mary's going to probably have a heart attack and die when I make this statement, but as you well know, and I think all the members of the board know, a special permit is not forever. A special permit can be conditioned on a yearly report to the permitting board, so that if any of these issues become a problem, you can address those. And I'm sure that if, for example, you didn't like the particular fence, the particular landscape or whatever that was put up there, if a letter went out from the zoning board, which you have the power to do, that says, we don't like this, we don't want this or whatever, and she doesn't do something about it, well, she better worry about the next time she comes back for a review from your board.
And what we could also do is put a, you know, again, just my condition, I don't know how the other board members feel, but just like we do when people come for a garage variance, they want to build a garage, not sure exactly what they're going to build, we approve it conditioned upon a plan being presented to us as to what to do. So what I would probably look for is a plan presented from you to us as to what that possible screening or fencing would be. I would suggest the same sort of idea around what we do with dumpsters. Some dumpsters are small, some are large, but that screening definitely does work. Some people do brick walls, but I don't think it would be appropriate in that case. But that would be a condition that I would have, unless I hear something else that changes my mind entirely.
I didn't drop the other shoe, Mr. Chairman. A violation of a condition that you put on the permit could be grounds for you to totally revoke the permit and order the removal of the sign. I think that's pretty strong stuff.
I agree. Okay. Now, I do remember that we closed the public hearing last time, but I see new faces here, but I don't know what petitions they're here for. So out of fairness to everybody, the applicant and anybody else in opposition or for this project, I'm going to ask if there's anybody who didn't speak last time that is opposed to this project that has something new to offer. If there is, you may address the board. Anybody here in opposition? Dan, you can address the board. I know you represent a group over there, so it's only fair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate you hearing us once again. Hopefully with that packet is also the 36 signatures of Baltimore Ave and West Talbot. They were the neighboring...
that was the previous two meetings ago?
That was the previous filing,
yeah, the board recognizes we did receive that.
I think we're going down, and you know, sometimes you don't have to be a genius to hear what's going on, is we're going down a slippery slope. I've heard that this billboard is going to do everything except potentially cure global warming. There may be benefits to this, but there's a reason why we have zoning, and it's supposed to be in an industrial area. Point blank. This area, there's nothing unique about it. It's a wetlands. The wetlands goes from Chelmsford Street all the way past the Daily. It's there. The slippery slope that you're coming down is that we might as well just line them up. Maybe we can purchase the land and just line them up. That's the problem with this. It's taking something that wasn't previously zoned this way and putting it in a place where it shouldn't be. Now, I was corrected last time, rightfully so, and no one likes to get corrected. I'm well aware of that. But this isn't a residential area, and I kept mentioning it. Well, I'm sorry, I go back 45 years. It's always been a residential area, and it was just changed at the last zoning rechange. I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago. They zoned it for residential retail, which allowed Peter to get in here. Once again, I have nothing against Peter. I have everything against his proposal. I think it's a bad proposal. I don't see any hardship here owing to the soil, shape, topography of the land, other than what was created. That area was filled in through the Conservation Commission. This is nothing unique. This isn't something that I think warrants the issuance of a variance. I guess the last thing I would say is that I don't even think a variance is proper. with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that it's proper, and I defer to you folks, and obviously it's here for a reason, but I don't believe it's proper to put or be able to change the zoning simply by coming here and asking for a variance. I think it's clever, I think it's creative, but I don't think it's something that would hold up in court. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time, Mr.
Dan,
Chairman.
just one
Yep.
question first. Can you identify yourself for the record? I
I'm
don't know.
sorry, Mr. Chairman. Danny Tenzar, 69 Baltimore Ave, Lowell, Mass. Also have a business in Lowell, lived on Baltimore Ave for 45 years.
Right, Dan, this may be just I might have misheard you, but is this, I have on the application, it's a regional retail district, not a residential retail. Is RR regional
It was
retail?
just recently changed within 4 or 5 years. It's always been residential for 40 years prior to that.
It's regional retail.
Oh, regional retail, okay.
Residential.
All right. Well, I'm wishing.
Before that, he said industrial.
And I guess one final note was, you mentioned the industrial nature of it. You have industrial properties. If you want to promote the city, you go to the industrial zoned areas in accordance with the zoning plan. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Dan.
board.
So for the record, it's, just because I was confused, it's regional, RR is regional retail, not residential retail. Okay, so that's just, that confused me a little bit. Okay, anybody here, other than Mr. Tenza, wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this petition that did not speak last time? Sir, please step up and address your name. Address the board with your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Danny Quinn, 65 County Drive, Lowell, Mass. I'm proud to be friends of Peter and Lowell, and I'm also Peter's brother John's father-in-law. Peter and Lowell, Louise, but it's Lowell to me, they put their whole future into this project. I've observed it up there. Mr. Leides is right. The sign, if you go up the connector to Route 3, connecting it right out to connecting it to Route 3, take it right, it merges with 495. There's a little, they come right in together. And as you go up that ramp, you cannot see onto Chinson Street. Oh, trust me, you can't see it. I can see a sign there would be ideal. It's going to help them. And it's going to improve them and give them a little revenue. It's going to help the city with all the projects that they're going to do with it. I'm totally behind this, and I support them 100%. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Anybody else here wishing to speak in favor of this petition, in favor? Ma'am, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Louise
You
Rushlow.
might want to pull that down.
My name is Louise Rushlow. I reside at 52 Upham Street in Lowell, and I think this is a good idea for the city also. So I'm for the petition.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition, in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. And before I close the entire public hearing and open up to the board for deliberation, is there anybody that wants to say anything else? Any representative of the applicant or the neighborhood that wants to add anything else before we do? Okay, so the public hearing is closed and we'll open up to the board for discussion. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be very brief. Frankly, I'm very disappointed in a couple of things. First being the notification from the city department regarding this project. I mean, I expected to come here tonight and to be able to deliberate on this matter, but we were handed, as the chairman presented to us, the communication from the city, you know, literally as I walked in. And obviously, there are a lot of points that have been made by the city in there. And I rely on the information that comes from the boards and from the departments to at least provide some guidance. Another thing that might have been helpful for me, Mr. Leides, would have been the package that you provided tonight, which, as you were speaking, you know, you provided some information there that obviously we didn't have from the first meeting that we sat down and had. So it would have been nice if I had had that a little bit earlier too. But needless to say, the departmental information is what I rely a lot of my input on, at least to provide some guidance. And be quite honest with all the parties, and I'm not looking to defer this, but I'm really not in a position to vote on this tonight. I need to get some more information, and at this point, I'm not prepared to even vote on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Jack?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I completely agree, first and foremost, with Mr. Bailey on the notification. I think what probably is more exacerbating for myself and perhaps other members of the board is the fact that there was a meeting between the petitioner's counsel, and planning and development, and that probably is what bothers me the most. There was a meeting, and I would presume after the meeting that at that particular point a decision would have been rendered, and we would have been notified, and certainly the petitioner would have been notified. So that's the first point. I completely agree with Mr. Bailey. The second that counsel brought up was a very interesting comment about the fact that initially they're opposed, and yet in the more recent statement that was provided, this information that was provided us, they reference more money. And I think in all fairness to the council and to petitioner, I think that's a great point. Which is it? If they're diametrically opposed to billboards, and that's consistent, then I'm in agreement. But if suddenly the new information says the city wants more money, then which is it? Somebody give me the information, and I'll make a decision based on that. I am extremely interested in the fact that the petitioner is willing to offer 4 signs per year at an estimated, and we understand that value of approximately $60,000. But I don't think it's just the idea of the sign itself, but the fact that there would be no additional expense incurred by the city in the actual creation of the sign. And in fact, the city would be allowed to offer their input, and I would presume look at renderings prior to the sign being placed. That I find extremely interesting and also beneficial, particularly for those events that we were referencing, like the Folk Festival, like Winterfest. All that kind of additional marketing is going to do is enlighten and inform people who travel and bring more revenue to the city, in addition to the obvious face value of what it would have cost the city, what the city would have incurred to purchase that space, and the development of the actual advertisement itself. I find that completely fascinating, interesting, and I will render my vote if we so decide tonight. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for letting me use your microphone as well. I do concur with my fellow board members with regard to the late corresponding from the city department on one hand. On the other hand, I also see that the petitioner is willing and to accommodate any conditions that this board and or the city look to place on her with regard to all the conditions and whatnot. And furthermore, I think a great benefit to the city with this petitions, and if there's any adverse impact at all, I would say that the negative or the positive part of it would be outweighed that. You see that we spend a lot of money, doing the advertisement on Folk Festival, Winterfest, and so on and so forth. And this petitioner willing to do it for free. And putting up this billboard is not going to cost the city any money whatsoever. And Mr. Quinn point out, which a lot of us, most of us who's here, don't live around the area, Mr. Quinn, and I live around the area too, drive by it, and this certainly is going to have a positive impact on the car that going from the right around Peter areas and the mobile stations up to the Route 3, to the connectors. It's dark at night, and there's no light there. And this certainly is going to help. And if any light at all that go and shine to the neighborhood, the petitioner said that it's going to face away from the neighborhood. So clearly, the negative, the positive will be outweigh the negative, and I'm prepared to vote for this petition tonight.
Thank you, Vesna. Corey.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. Now, I'd like to make a few comments before I do. Now, this does have unanimous approval in the Conservation Commission, correct? Okay. Well, first I'd like to start off regarding the variance. I mean, this is a very unique piece of land, okay? In my opinion, with the topography of the land and its proximity to wetlands, this does qualify as a variance to me. This petition here defines a variance, in my opinion. I mean, we have two lifelong Lowell residents. We have a business been in the city for many, many years. He's being taxed on the property, and this property is basically useless to any other use. So I do, and my findings are that this does qualify for a variance. Secondly, regarding the neighborhood, and I want to thank Mr. Tenzar for all the hard work he's done in rallying the neighborhood. But I do not see this being a detriment to the neighborhood. I really don't. It won't be visible 7 months of the year in the first place, and those who may see it will be parallel to the thing, and there will be a handful or so that this thing is visible to, and it's unfortunate, but any project of this magnitude does fall on the backs of local abutters, and that's unfortunate. But I don't think they'll be losing any sleep at night, in my honest opinion. So, Mr. Tenzar, if I thought this would be a detriment to your neighborhood, I would be fighting for you, but in my honest opinion, I don't believe that. I think the petitioner has done all we asked him to do since the last meeting. I asked him to sit down with the city and try and satisfy them, but it seems like the door was almost slammed in their face, which I don't like to see. As board members and city officials, we need to have open-mindedness, as I always do. I may not be in favor of petition off the bat, but I always try and find a way. Doesn't always work, but that's what we're here to do. The petitioner is willing to give 4 months of the year to city, community, and hopefully neighborhood events, charities, whatever it may be, to the tune of $60-some-odd thousand. And when and if it does get converted to LED, it gets even better. I just think it's a good thing. With the Amber Alert, I mean, there's all sorts of positives. Missing children, escaped convicts, city events, there's many, many positives to this. I don't see me approving more than one within city borders, to be honest with you, but I don't think one is too much. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I do support this petition, and I'm prepared to vote on it tonight. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. Rick?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this has come before us again. It was held over. I still feel the same way. We're trying to put these in industrial areas. We can give a special permit in an industrial area for this. It's not an RR district or regional retail. I know both the petitioners. I just don't think it's a good thing to be putting it over there. And I know they'll be giving us the city a lot, but I don't think the city should be selling variances, basically. You give us a little, we're going to give you something. It's not a good idea. And if they could sit down and hammer out something, maybe either lower it or do something different, but it's allowed 300 feet the other way to the left. That's what I don't understand, why we're fighting so hard with the neighborhood and stuff. It's just not a good idea to start doing this. I feel. That's my feeling. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Rick. I guess I've said most of my comments, but I do agree with Mr. Bailey and Mr. Knox as far as the correspondence from the city. I'm not sure when this meeting took place, but I am sure that we got a correspondence late this afternoon, and for most folks, just minutes before they sat down at this meeting. So it's very difficult as a board, and this has been an ongoing problem, so it's not specific to this petition, but it's been an ongoing problem with this board receiving correspondence from, I'm not going to say the various departments, I'm going to say specifically this department. And I don't know if that department's just overloaded with work and can't get to this, and if that's the case, then, you know, I guess that's their reason. But it's very frustrating, and I did have a chance to look at it quickly, and I read these things a lot, so I kind of find the conclusion in what I'm reading, and I found the conclusion in Mr. Leitis that I just received today, and trying to balance the two. And when I read that, I read what the real problem is with the city, or at least one of them, is that they want a public benefit. They want a trade-off. They're not, they say if you're going to allow it, or if most towns allow it, we need some sort of benefit to the city. I think the benefit was clearly spelled out tonight. If you had a different answer for the vinyl wrap for now, if there was going to be no benefit until and unless you got approved from LED, for LED lighting or face for that sign, I probably couldn't have supported this. But, you know, you made it clear, and it would be a condition that would be something that you would have to follow through on. And I think that's a huge benefit to the city. If it's anywhere in the vicinity of $60,000, it's a huge benefit to the city. And it is a regional retail district, and I agree with Attorney Leidy's legal analysis that you would decide these things based on the district they're in, not the districts they abut. Overall, for a special permit, we can consider, you know, and should consider if it has a substantial negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood. And I have considered that. And when you consider that neighborhood and the wide variety of all kinds, I mean, you've got residential streets there, almost right up against high-rise buildings and gas stations and restaurants and so forth, and I don't think that this stands out or will stand out as a white elephant. Clearly, it has to stand out because that's the purpose. And I think that the applicant has made reasonable concessions as to the ladder facing the highway, the screening that would propose that they provide, cleaning up any graffiti. I mean, I've looked at every possible issue that we can make sure that the city's protected here. I can't guarantee that people aren't going to see it at certain times of the year from their house. And, you know, there's things, where I live, I hear Cauley Stadium all the time from my house. I hear the announcements, and I like it. It doesn't bother me. It's part of my neighborhood. I knew it was there when I bought my house, and, you know, it's what's grown around there. So I don't see that as a huge problem to the neighborhood, and I'm willing to support this with these many conditions, and the applicant has represented that they are willing to accept these conditions that I consider considerable. So I'd be willing to support this project with these conditions on it. So, having said that, procedurally, we're going to need to take two motions. One is to approve the variance in the first instance, and if that's approved, there'll need to be a second for a special permit, and I believe the special permit is where we should put on the conditions. So, I'll entertain a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the variance on this petition.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Present.
Approve?
Approve.
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 He's an alternate member. Okay. The variance has been approved unanimously with one voting present. So it's 4 voting in favor of it, 1 voting present, I should say. So we need another motion regarding the special permit that would allow the use there. So.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit for this allowed usage with the following conditions, and there are a few, Madam Secretary. For starters, we'd like a regular maintenance program for the sign and pylon. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, what kind of fencing did you prefer there?
I wrote these down. Do you want me to try to just?
Yes.
The first condition would be the owner and any subsequent owner shall provide this board with a maintenance plan that shall include fencing, landscaping to minimize the visual impact on the surrounding neighborhood. The second condition would be that the applicant or any subsequent owner of the property, upon written notice of any graffiti on the structure, remove it within 7 days of notification. I'll wait till I see you stop writing too, I know, it's a lot to ask of her. That the ladder on the structure be placed in such a position that is it away from the surrounding neighborhood and facing toward the highway. That the applicant provide a minimum of 4 faces per year, 2 sides of free city advertising at the city's discretion, working along with the city manager's office and cool.
Facing is approximately a month, too, Madam Secretary.
For the duration of 1 month each. That the petition be reviewed by this board every 6 months to ensure compliance with these conditions. And that any violation of said conditions could result in the removal or suspension of the special permit. Now, to the board, this is a motion. This is a proposed list of special permits. If anybody wants to discuss the issues of the special permit or add anything to that, you may. This is a motion on the floor, and those are the special permits. We had to recite them clearly just so everybody understands what they are. Is there anybody that doesn't understand what the motion is right now on the board?
No, Mr. Chairman. Should we add that if and when it does get state approval for LED, that it does come back to this board for approval? Is that necessary?
Probably not, but let's add that prior to the applicant changing any part of this approval, a new plan has to be submitted to this board, including, but not limited to, LED lighting or facing. I'm not sure what the term is. Does anybody have any other proposed conditions to ask? Okay, so that's the motion. I need a second.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is seconded.
I second.
Motion was made by Mr. Belanger, seconded by Mr. Noon. And I need a roll call.
Present.
Approve with conditions.
Approve with conditions.
Approve with conditions.
Approve with condition.
Okay, the applicant's been approved, 4 votes approving it and 1 vote voting present. The motion passes. The plan is approved. We do need you to sign some documents, Attorney Lightis. If you could come up, and Mr. Belanger has a package that you'll need to sign and hand over to Stephanie and Kim. Thank you. Thank everybody for coming. The next petition this evening is ZB 2008
George.
000031, special permit and variance for signs. Excuse me, could you take that outside, please? Excuse me. Folks, can you take that outside? We just have another petition. Thank you. Just 1 second, sir.
That's fine.
I'll just... Okay, I have a conflict of interest with the next petition, so I'm going to turn this over to Vice Chairman Noon, who will chair this petition.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. This is the next petition. It's good evening, actually. ZB 2008-00031. Special permit and variant for sign. A Barlow sign for J&D Nominees Trust dash Finn Car Wash. Could I have petitions approach the port? Please present the case, sir.
Good evening. My name's Tim Sullivan. I'm an employee of Barlow Signs out of Hudson, New Hampshire, and I'm here representing Finn's Car Wash and their property at 16 Perry Street. Again, it's a continuance from a meeting, I believe, 2 meetings ago. At that time, there was some discussion of how we want to proceed with the property or with the sign. The first concern was the actual location of the sign. The board recommended that we look the site over and see if there was a more favorable spot for the sign. We walked the street up and down, back and forth, drove it in cars, and basically where it was originally located is the best spot. If we bring it out closer to the edge of the property, it gets blocked by the trees that are lining the street there. So by setting it back, you get a better angle of visibility as you approach it both down the hill and up the hill. We discussed the overall height of the sign. And again, the height, if you look at page 2 of that handout I gave you, I dropped it down to a 15-foot overall height. I don't think you want to go much lower than that, because once you get cars parked in that vacant lot between the two, they're going to start blocking the visibility of the sign. So by keeping it at 20, which is allowed, or dropping it down to the 15-foot, it allows us to still maintain that visibility. This evening, we're seeking a special permit to allow internal illumination, and by allowing us to illuminate the sign internally, it really puts the finishing touches on a property that's been renovated quite well and quite attractive to the town. The car wash is operated 24/7. When it actually gets up and going, he still hasn't had his official grand opening yet. So the property will be lit for safety purposes all night. He's got some attractive street lighting there. He's got some attractive landscaping lighting. And by allowing the sign to be illuminated at the same time, it basically wraps the whole property up, allows it to be properly identified, and creates a nice finish effect of the property. Also this evening, the owner of the property is here, if you'd like him to speak at this time or at another time.
If he like to, yes, briefly.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jeremy McSorley. I'm the owner of the car wash on 16 Perry Street. And I just asked the board to consider the sign that we're proposing. Although I don't have direct frontage on Andover Street, this sign is a vital part of the success of the car wash. So I'd ask the board to allow me to put the proposed sign where we're proposing to put it.
Thank you, sir. Is there a board, Mr. Bailey, you have any questions? Right. Let me also first, before I hear from the board, let me hear from those in opposition of this sign. Would you like to be heard? Those in opposition of this petition like to be heard. That part of that portion of the hearing is closed. Those in support of this petition would like to be heard, please approach the podium. That part of the public hearing is closed. Now, let me turn to my fellow board members. Mr. Bailey, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only comment I'll make is, I think everything we asked of the petitioner, he's followed up on it. I like the look of the sign. I appreciate the last page where you gave us the different look. Now, as far as I don't know if you mentioned it, the operation, or when would the sign actually be on? Is it on all day, or how many hours a day? How long would it be?
Well, it'll be off during the daytime. It'll be on during nighttime hours when the car wash is operational, being a 24/7
24/7. Okay.
car wash.
Yep.
That's the way to tell people that they're open.
Yep. No, I believe the petitioner has come back with a plan that we were looking for, and obviously put the time and effort into it, so I would fully support the petitioner.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Knott, sir.
Through you, Mr. Vice Chairman, I agree again with Mr. Bailey. I think in particular, Mr. Bienvenu had comments and concerns with the initial petition about the height of the sign, and that seems to have been addressed. So this is a coin-operated, is that?
Yes, I would say it's considered a coin-operated, correct.
And that's the reason why it's in operation 24/7, is that correct?
Correct.
So that's the necessity for the sign to be lit at night as well.
Correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Knott. Mr. Valentio, sir.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question now. On the third page of the package you handed in today, we have a spotlit from ground, internal illumination full face, and internal illumination copy and graphic only. Now, which one would you like to go forward with?
The petition is for the middle one, internal illumination for the full face.
All right.
The reason I showed you the other two was just to kind of give the board some options. The spotlight is what was originally recommended, but obviously if you're going to spotlight a sign that size, you're going to have to put a pretty substantial floodlight on the ground, and it's almost going to be more detrimental to the surrounding community as opposed to just lighting the faces.
Okay, well, I remember the day I did a walkthrough with this property when we first approved the car wash, and that site was an absolute disaster. And I couldn't be more pleased with the work your client has done. He's done an outstanding job on that site. And, he does stand a little bit of disadvantage being set back off the street like he is, and he certainly needs something to let people know he's there. And I do like his lighting plan. The car wash itself is very well illuminated in the evening, which is very, very important for safety reasons. So that is, I'm very happy to see that. So with all that being said, I would approve your special permit. So you do want to go forward with the internal illumination full face. Right. And you do want like that 24/7 on constantly?
We'd prefer the 20-foot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any residential that would be affecting, seeing that you lowered the height a few feet, and I don't think you'd be affecting anybody, to be honest with you. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I am in favor of it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Banby, sir?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, they dropped it down 5 feet. I appreciate that. Jeremy, you did a great job out there with that piece of property, you did. I know it runs 24/7. I'd like to see if we could put something on it, maybe a one-year review, because we do have some people over there, just in case you have any concerns out there, Jeremy, you know? And then if there's no problem, then we'll just leave it the way it is. And if there is, maybe you could shut it off for a few hours during the night if you wanted to or whatever. Plus, it'll dictate how business works out there also for you.
Yes,
So
yep.
I'd be in favor if we could put some type of review on it, so at least the neighborhood has a chance to come back and tell us what they think of it. And then if there's none, we'd be all set.
Right.
Yep. Excellent point, Mr. Bienvenu.
Thank you, Mr. Bienvenu. I concur with Mr. Bailey that the petitioner tried to accommodate this board and the Diane Tradd and the comments that Mr. Bienvenu brought at the last meeting, that is to bring it down to 15 feet. And the conditions, probably, if there's a motions, I too concur with Mr. Bienvenu that it should be in the conditions for 1 year review to see if there's any issues or concern. If not, after that 1 year's reviews, the board may choose to vote to no need of further review. So with that being said, let me hear a motion on the floor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following condition, that it comes back to this board for a 1-year review once the building permit is issued. Is that satisfactory, Mr. Bienvenu?
Yes, we just, for review.
For review after 1 year, once building permit is issued.
If I may, how does that review work? Do we file for the review? Do you
No,
contact us?
you'll be notified by the
Okay.
zoning secretary. Yes, you'll be notified automatically.
All right.
The petitioner being notified to come back, if there's no issues, then, that's it. We just tell the petitioner there's no issues, and we'll make decision whether or not it's going to be further reviews or not. Here's second on the motion.
Second the motion.
Please call the roll.
Was a condition, right?
Yes.
Approved with condition.
Approve with conditions.
Approve with condition.
Approve with conditions, and also please call Mr. Bienvenu also as well, is an alternate, yes.
Approve with conditions.
Thank you. Sir, you've been approved by unanimous. Please come up here and sign the plans. Good luck, sir. Let me go check with my chairman to have him come back, chair the following hearing.
Thank you.
Okay. Now on to the regular agenda. Those were two continuances. The first order of new business is ZB 2008-33. This is a petition for a variance. Morales, Jose Santos, Brent, that's how it's written, so I assume it's Brenda and Jose Morales, 90 Bayberry Drive. This is a traditional single-family, and the petition is to construct a deck with insufficient rear yard setback according to Article 5, Section 5.1 of the Table of Dimension Requirements. There's also, before we start, gentlemen, there's also a correspondence from the Christine Thomas, who's the environmental officer. It says to our building director, Kim, it says, you have a project on your agenda at 90 Bayberry Street. There appears to be a wetland on that property, and it appears that the deck would be within 100 feet of said wetland. In that case, you would need to come before the Conservation Commission. Are you aware of anything?
Good evening. My name is Jose Morales.
Yeah.
No, wasn't aware of the wetland, but now that we have to go through, I thought this was the only process we have to go through.
And I'm not sure. The only reason, I know you have to come here, but I'm not sure if you have to go to the Conservation Board. My guess is that you do, because we have the letter from the Conservation Office. The question now is, can we entertain this project without that information? And my gut feeling is we'd need that information first. You're kind of putting, that petition has to go before this, I would think.
I believe you're correct, Mr. Chairman. You know, Petitioner, we want you to know you've done nothing wrong. We want to make that clear. We did receive a correspondence that, you know, you're going to need Conservation Commission approval, unfortunately. So we'll give you the info. We're going to have to continue with this for a couple of weeks. I don't think we can go any further on this. We'll give you the information and contact Christine Thomas to see what you need to do.
Okay. It's pretty much a just a pretty fast procedural process. If that's what it is, if you are in there, there might be an order of conditions. They may just say, all right, make sure you do this or do that. I'm not sure because I'm not familiar with your property. But what we'll do is, so your petition stays on this board, we could continue it for a period of 2 weeks. But my guess is it's better off if we continue it for a period of 30 days, because not the next meeting, which is the 22nd, I believe, but the meeting following that. And my suggestion is that you go to the you talk to Christine Thomas tomorrow and find out what you need to do to get on the next conservation meeting. So I think our next, Kim, do you know when our next meeting is after the 22nd? October 15th? Thanks, Stephanie. So October 15th would be probably a good date to continue it until. That gives you plenty of time?
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
So unless anybody has anything else to say, I'd entertain a motion to continue
For
this.
you, Mr. Chairman, just one
Yep.
quick comment. You are right, because that's precisely, Mr. Bailey and I just talking, what we did with the previous petitioner. There was a question as to whether or not it was wetlands for the billboard, and we referred him to conservation first. So that's precisely what protocol is.
Okay.
And as Mr. Belanger stated, you've done nothing wrong. It's just a matter of protocol and where you have to go first. That's all.
Just being precautions, John. Understood.
Okay, yep. All right, so we still have to take an official vote to continue it. And Stephanie, you said, I'm sorry, the
15th?
October 15th. So that's a Monday, obviously. Oh, I'm sorry. Not obviously. That's a Wednesday because of the holiday that week. Okay, so it's a Wednesday, October 15th. So I'll entertain a motion to continue it until Wednesday, October 15th.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue till October the 15th.
Second the motion.
Roll call.
Continue.
Continue.
Continue until October 15th.
Continue to October 15th.
Continue.
Continue to October 15th.
Okay. Folks, it's been continued to October 15th. There will not be any further notice to anybody. You're just required to come here that night. Any information you do receive from Conservation, whether it's approval, denial, or conditions, I would suggest that you get it to the building department, to get it to us prior to the meeting, so we have a chance to review it, so we don't just have to look at it as we're hearing your petition.
Okay.
Okay?
You have the lady's name again?
Yes, Mr. Morales, you can step forward. I have it right here for you.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Okay, the final petition we have is ZB 2008-34, special permit, Broadway Street Holdings LLC. This is property located at 688 Broadway Street, and this is a petition to substitute an existing non-conforming use to that of cutting, shaping, and the sale of granite materials according to section 4.5.2 of the zoning ordinance. Would a representative of Broadway Street Holdings please address the board? Welcome, sir. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is John Santos. My address is 688 Broadway Street, and we try get a special permit to work in this building. And we cut stones and we shave stones, and everything is made by wet, by big equipments, and we just need the special permit.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say, sir?
My landlord, he owns the whole property around us, the front building, the back building, and the back building from us is the National Grid, the National Grid, the gas company, and he have a big company around us, and I don't see any inconvenience to work in that building.
Okay, would this work take place inside a building, or is this outside
It's
work?
inside the building.
So it's all enclosed?
Yeah, all closed.
Okay.
And we work, our business hours at 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday to Friday.
So it's
And,
not weekend work at all?
Sometimes in the summer, we work Saturdays, but it's not normal.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's all.
Okay.
He-
Okay,
he's the landlord.
anybody wishing to speak in favor of this project, in favor?
Actually, I'm sorry, I just run to the restroom, but I'm actually the owner of the
Oh, if you'd like to address the board, sir, step up, you can state your name and address for the record.
My name is Stephen Plouffe, and I own the property at 688 Broadway Street. And
Okay,
I'm
are you part of Broadway Street LLC?
I'm the president of
Okay.
Broadway Street Holdings.
So this will be, you're the owner of the property, and this would be your business as well?
I do not own the business. I own the property, and I am leasing the building in question to
Okay, so
King
you're the
Stone.
you're the landlord?
I'm the landlord.
Okay, and what would you like to say, sir?
I just wanted to introduce myself only because I
Right, I understand.
and I was the one that had officially applied for the special
Okay.
permit.
So obviously you're in favor of this.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you'd like to say that, I don't know if you heard what the gentleman said before you, but he kind of explained what the nature of the business was and what the surrounding area was like. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I would just like to add that I'm sure that I assume that the board is aware of the prior use of the property in that.
I'm not aware of it. What was the prior use?
Okay, prior to my purchase of the property, it was operated as a towing and storage facility, as well as an auto repair and auto body shop.
Okay, I'm familiar with it now. I didn't see this picture.
Okay. My company, Broadway Street Holdings, I also operate a company, S&R Corporation, which that business is operated out of the adjacent property, and we perform bridge construction and bridge demolition services. And I would just like to state that given the use of the properties surrounding this, that, and also taking into account the former use of the property, I think that the use being proposed here for King Stone's work would not, it's my opinion that it would not only not cause further detriment to the area, but that it would in fact be probably less intrusive than some of the adjacent and or prior uses of the property.
Okay.
Thank you,
sir. Is anybody else here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody wishing to oppose this project? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed, and now the public hearing is closed, and we'll open this up to the board for deliberation. Bill?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. When did the new operation start in the building, sir? When did King Stone start in that building?
King Stone has not started. They were previously at another location on Broadway Street.
Yep, I know where they're at, yep.
And they're in the process of moving into my building right now.
Okay. So are they vacating the other building and moving into yours, relocating, more or less?
They're relocating right
Yep,
now into my
okay.
building.
So it'll be the same operation that they performed at their previous address that they're going to perform at yours?
That's exactly right.
Yep.
That's my understanding.
And the product, will they be storing the product out in the parking area, pretty much behind a locked gate, or how will that be set up?
Yes, the entire property is fenced in.
Yep.
With a locked gate, and it is the intent that granite slab material, the countertop slab material, would be stored out in the parking area,
Yeah.
which is located immediately in front of the building as well as the property behind it.
And all cutting, fabrication would be done within those four walls of where the building is presently?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if the use is consistent with the prior use for the business and understanding what the building was used before, I would agree with the landlord and the owner of the building that it, in fact, may even be less of a detriment or deterrent to the neighborhood. And I think in that case, I would be in favor of the petition.
Thanks, Jack. Vesna? Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. A few questions before I comment. How frequent will deliveries be of the granite and whatnot?
They come in big trucks, and every load is inside the building.
He says, how frequently do the deliveries take place? How often do you get granite?
And sir, if you could talk into the microphone, it's just, it's...
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's no problem.
How often, can you give me a question again?
How frequent would granite be delivered to the premises?
Like how often we can go with?
How often, yes.
Everywhere to New England. We go to Lowell, local.
No, I'm asking how often will they be delivered to your shop?
Oh, we have a forklift to do it, and outside from inside.
Okay, you're still not answering my question. I'm
He's
saying-
asking you how many times a week are you going to have deliveries?
One a day.
One a day.
About one a day?
Yeah.
Okay, so you, as Mr. Bailey asked you, the cutting of the granite is going to take place inside the garage, correct?
Yes.
Now, is there any exhaust fan required for something like this?
I think the building have the exhaust fan already, but
There's one existing?
Yes.
Okay.
There is an exhaust fan existing, but this is wet sawing that's taking place as opposed to
Okay.
dry sawing.
All right. Shows you how much I know about construction, but okay. Well, one or two deliveries a week is like music to my ears at this site compared to what was there. I mean, tow truck was there, I don't know how many times a day. I'm not even going to begin to think about that. But I think this, what you're trying to propose here, it will have far less stress on the neighborhood, most certainly, than what was there. And I think it's a good fit down there, and I am in favor of it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Rick?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question on, no outside work, right, will be performed outside at any given time?
No.
And this is you're gonna do sales out there also, correct?
Yes.
So you'll have just a little area, just like you have down the
Yes.
street where people can come in and pick out the colors and stuff?
Yes.
I have no problem, Mr. Chairman. It's less detrimental than what was going on there before. And just to keep the area clean, that's all I ask.
Okay.
Okay, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Excuse me,
I'm
one second.
sorry, Mr. Bailey?
In the event there's a subsequent business that comes in and wants to do the same type of business, is that going to, are we approving for King to work out of there through the landlord, or if another business decides to come in there, does it continue, does the permit continue?
I don't think the conditions, if the applicant is asking for a special permit and we approve it, it's for this applicant. If you have a subsequent business that goes in there, that's what, if I understand your question, a subsequent business goes in there that has a different use, obviously that may or may not require the need for a special permit depending on what that use is.
Understood.
Okay, does that answer your question? Okay.
No further questions, it appears, Mr. Chairman, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Knox. I need a roll call, Stephanie?
Approve.
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 Sir, you've been approved unanimously. I just need you to sign some documents and hand them over to Stephanie, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay, we do have one more order of business, and that's just the acceptance of the minutes from July 14th, 2008, and August 11th, 2008. Has everybody had a chance to review these minutes?
I did.
Okay. starting with the July 14th, 2008 minutes. All in favor of approval, say yay. Any opposed, say no.
Yay?
The minutes of July 14th, 2008 are unanimously approved. Anybody wanting to approve the minutes of the public hearing of August 11th, 2008, please respond by saying yay. All opposed, say no.
Yay.
All in favor? That has passed as well. The minutes are accepted unanimously, August 11th, 2008. And that concludes tonight's agenda. I do not think we have any other issues. We do have a closed session proposed, but I think that's going to be delayed to another meeting.
Yeah, the building commissioner is not present tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded, sir.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.